Welcome to Conjuror. My name's Lost One and I'll be your host for this evening. In this episode we are going to play with one of the brand new packs made by the developers, and it will be starter deck number 1. Just have a look at it. So the general makeup is low value creatures with a few big hitters in there. So we've got a good handful of God Supports Me. Of course that gives you 1 mana and 1 health. We've got a couple of Bryn, Idara, Kivara, Dagra, Forest Gnolls, Plagued Elk, Rogard, Berserker, Gorthog, Surgada and Swift Grog. So let's get into it, get queued up. Be interesting to see how this deck works. It doesn't have any removal, however it does have the mechanics of being really good. As you can see, the matchmaking can sometimes take a while, but here we are in game. So we're turn 1, so we get 2 mana to start with. This turn I'm just going to buy a mana and use a God Supports Me, and you'll watch my mana will go up from 1 of 4 to 1 of 5, and my life total will go up from 25 to 26. And I'll end the turn. So depending on what they do, they might just buy a mana and play a God Supports Me. That's generally 99% of the time what a player will do turn 1. However, they may not have a God Supports Me or whatever. It varies from player to player really. But a lot of the early game is spent just trying to get that mana up. So because I didn't play a creature card, or rather a creature, I'm going to drop my Bryn for 2 mana and a Rogard behind that, and I will buy 1 mana with my remaining 1 mana. And they've surrendered for whatever reason, but that's fine, we'll just seek another game. As you can see, maybe they didn't have a very good hand, or maybe they realised that I could have just picked off whatever they were going to play. So the matchmaking pool at the moment is pretty small, but once we get more players, it'll make it way faster to find games. The unranked and ranked gameplay is also combined at the moment, so you could have players playing ranked versus players that are playing unranked. And I mean, it really doesn't matter for the players playing unranked, but the players playing ranked generally get a little bit annoyed when they lose, and they lose points, whereas the unranked players obviously neither gain nor lose points. So I guess it's a double-edged sword for the ranked players, because well, when they win they still gain points, but again when they lose points, and some of them can get quite annoyed at that. So here we are, up against exactly the same player again, and first turn again, so we'll do exactly the same thing as last turn. We'll buy the mana and we'll play the God Supports Me, except this time we don't have any Bryns or anything else in our hand. So what I'll do instead is play a Gorthog just to the side of the Bryn. I would I could block the Bryn with my Gorthog by playing it in front. However, I want to attack next turn with my Gorthog. So rather than taking out their Bryn, I want to attack straight through into them. I'm also going to buy a mana with my 2 of 5 mana remaining and play a God Supports Me, so that'll take me up to 7 mana for next turn and 27 life. You may notice next turn my mana will be 8 of 7, and that's because of the mana rollover system. So if you've got any mana left over, you'll always get 1 mana extra the next turn. So even if I ended my turn now, I've got 8 of 7 mana, I'd only gain 1 extra mana, so I'd have 8 of 7 mana again. I wouldn't have 15 of 7. So they've played a Berserker, which is kind of nice. However, because I've got Adaras in my hand, I'll attack the Bryn and I'll play Adara. So what Adara does is when it comes into play, it'll wake up cards that have already moved or attacked. So you watch, my Gorthog comes back up again, and I'll kill off his Berserker. And I'll play another Gorthog. So what I'm doing here is I'm protecting my Adara from a spell, and I'll buy another mana and end the turn. So with the mana rollover system, I'll have 9 of 8 mana next turn. Alrighty, now we've got an interesting decision. I can play both the Silgator and the Plagued Elk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the Plagued Elk. The Plagued Elk can attack as soon as it comes into play, but I can't actually target the opposition's life total even though it's free. That's because Plagued Elks have to target a creature if it's in play. And I'll just kill that. And what I'll do is I'll place the Silgator in behind my Plagued Elk. So next turn my Plagued Elk will die from its plague, but at the moment it's protecting my Silgator from either a Fire and Sword or a Hammer of Thor, and again they've given up. So this deck is useful if you get the right hand. Here we are, we're up against the newer player, and again we're turn 1. So again we've got God Supports Me in opening hand and up to 6. See what Tune SF was doing there is using that 2 mana extra to draw a card. See here, I can draw a card for half my total mana. And I'll do that this turn because I don't really want to play any of the cards in my hand right now. So I'll buy for 2. And in this case I've got a Dagra. They're pretty good. So I'll play her for 3 and spend the extra 1, and that God Supports Me. And as you can see, when I went up to 6 mana, my draw cards went up. So again, if I go up to 8 mana, my draw cards will go up to 4 mana cost. Okay, here we've got enough mana to play a Silgator and buy a mana, but I'm going to play a Plagued Elk, and this time you'll see that I'm actually able to attack them because there's no creatures on the field. And I'll play a Rogard behind my Plagued Elk and buy that extra mana. So all that Plagued Elk is doing really is providing a secure base for my Rogard to stop it getting hit And here the opposition's played a Mesmer. So what that does is it prevents the card in front of it from being targeted. However, because my Plagued Elk is still in play, it's not going to affect anything. So I'm going to drop my Sewer and attack his Mesmer, killing it. I'll buy a mana and I'll end my turn. So Boss Rat, it adds a packed rat to their hand at the end of each of their turns. This can be handy if you are playing a rat deck, because what the rats do is they actually gain 1 damage for every other rat in play. However, they've only got 2 life, so easy for my Rogard to pick off. So what I will do is I'm actually going to use my Sewer to kill off the void that was sitting there. I'm going to use my Plagued Elk to hit the boss rat and use my Adara again to wake up all the creatures, and that allows me to attack again. So I'm going to kill the fairy with my Rogard, kill the boss rat with my Plagued Elk, and attack him for 6 damage. And then I'll play a Forest Knoll and buy 1 mana. So he's drawing a lot of cards, so that either suggests to me that he's looking for 1 card in particular, or he's trying to get enough cards into his hand, or he had nothing. So far 3 from 3 with these cards. See if we can go again. So this time we are second to play, so we get 3 mana to start with, and we were lucky enough to draw that God Supports Me. So there's a Lilith. It's fairly nasty because she'll steal cards if she kills him. To answer that, I'll place a Gorthog in front of her and buy a mana and end the turn. So what they might do is okay, so they've played a Hammer of Thor, which instantly kills any creature that's unblocked. But that allows me to play my Sewer and buy a mana. So there's a Fire and Sword that deals 3 damage to any unblocked creatures on the field, and what they've just done is attacked with the Lilith to kill my Sewer and that gives them a Sewer into their hand. So because I know they're probably going to play a Sewer next turn, I'll play both my Forest Knoll and my Dagra, with my Forest Knoll protecting my Dagra. Okay, that wasn't quite expected. The Quicksand prevents my Forest Knoll from doing anything at all, so you can't even move, whereas my Dagra can move if I wanted to. And my Forest Knoll will die in a couple of turns if I don't get rid of it. So to answer that, I'm going to play my Swift Grog, and I'll place a Kavara in front of her. So Swift Grog is pretty cool. He can attack as many enemies as he wants in one turn without going back to sleep like the rest of them do. And that's really useful for things like quicksands or little creatures. So as long as Swift Grog's life total doesn't drop, he can just deal with everything. Okay, so that's an interesting move on their behalf. But again, I've drawn another Swift Grog, so I'll play that. And I'll play a Kivara in front of my Dagra because she's the most important piece there. She's letting me draw 2 cards every turn instead of just 1. So that'll increase my chances of getting an Idara. And I want an Idara right now because Idara will let me keep my Swift Grog basically. See, I can move him out of the way now. And what I might do is place my Forest Gnoll and my Rogard behind my other Dagra, buy a mana and end the turn. So again, I'm protecting my Swift Grog from being targeted by spells. Alrighty, so this is where Forest Gnoll and rather Swift Grog will come into action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kill that Gator and see. Here we can just keep attacking with our Swift Grog, kill off these quicksands, get them out of the picture, easy, nice. Now we'll kill off the Lilith, and we can still attack, but we're not. We're going to use our Kivara to kill off the Gator, and then we can deal 9 damage with our Swift Grog, our Dagra, and our other Dagra. And then we've got the mana to play a Forest Gnoll, and we'll play a Sewer Gator, just intimidation. Buy a mana and play another God Supports Me. So now they're in trouble, they're going to rely on spells now to try and clear the field. And so Lord Victus will allow her to recycle their last card in the top of the graveyard. So in this case they played a God Supports Me, so the top card there is God Supports Me. So if I attack that Victus, that God Supports Me is going to go back on top of their deck. I'm going to have a look at how much damage I can actually deal. So in essence I can actually kill them here, so I'm not even going to bother attacking the Victus. I'm going to play an Idara, wake them up and deal. So that's something you can do, is you can actually move your creatures and then use your Idara ability to wake them back up, and then that way you can bypass any creatures that are blocking your other creatures. So back into the matchmaking queue. As you can see, sometimes it's really fast, like those last few games have been really fast, and then sometimes it takes a little bit. So we're up against Tune again. Our opening hand's pretty nice. It's got a Dagra, a Rogard and an Idara, and it's got a few creatures to block our cards that we want to survive, and it's also got a God Supports Me. So they're probably going to play Boss Rat straight away. That's quite a nasty move. But to answer that, instead of buying a mana like I normally do, I'm going to play a Rogard. and just use God Supports Me to get me that extra mana. So because there's this void in front of Rogard, he can't actually, like normally a creature can't attack the boss rat directly. However, Rogard, because of his archer ability, he can fire over the void and land shots onto the boss rat without Rogard getting injured. So here we go. Boom. Rogard's asleep, that's fine. We're going to use Idara just because we want to kill that boss rat as soon as possible. And we'll buy a mana. So basically what we've done there is we've limited the amount of time the boss rat is on the field. Therefore we've limited the number of rats they can generate. So we'll just attack the void. It's going to collapse after about 3 turns anyway, but if we can kill it off earlier, cool. And here we go, we'll just play a Kivara and our Dagra. There we go, as I said, the void will collapse. And with that extra mana, we'll just buy another mana. So we've played another boss rat. Because of what I've just drawn, because I've drawn another Dagra, I'm actually going to use this Dagra here to kill off that boss rat. And again, we're limiting the number of rats they can draw on. So again, we'll play Dagra and we'll play our Bryn. We'll buy a mana and we'll get another one through God Supports Me. So they're relying heavily on those rats. And you know, that's fine. I don't really mind. Because I can kill them, and I will. And I'm going to play a Grog, because Grog will help me deal with those rats. Because he can attack multiple times. So they're going to kill off my Idara, that's fine. There's not a lot they can do, they've only got 2 cards left in their deck. They're relying on the boss rat to draw them up more and more rats and give them cards. However, with the boss rats out of the way, it absolutely destroys the power of their deck. So pretty much what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Swift Grog, punch the boss rat in the face. Boss rat will die, kill off the other rat, they'll die, and then attack with my Swift Grog. Or they may choose to play another pack rat, in which case I'll kill off the pack rat, which will have 3 damage. Then I'll kill off this pack rat here, which will have 2 damage. That'll take my Swift Grog down to 1 life, and then I can kill the boss rat. That way I can get rid of all of their cards on the field, and sure, I lose a Swift Grog, but there's not a lot else left in their hand. Or what they might do is they might just time it out because they realise they can't win. So we get to sit here for another 20 odd seconds waiting for them to either end their turn or lose the game. Highly exciting viewing. And there we go. 2, 1, time. So that's one way of winning, is by having the opposition time out. Let's recap at the deck we've been playing with tonight. So again, starter deck number 1. As you'll noticed, I've won every single game that I've played with it. Not using any special powers or anything like that. It's just a basic starter deck. No spells in it, just all creatures. And it works. It's all about using the abilities, blocking your vulnerable creatures like your Dagra, your Rogard, with your other creatures like your Bryn, your Forest Gnolls, your Plagued Elks, and using Idara to wake your creatures up and in most cases either kill another creature or land the killing blow on the enemy. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Lost One, and I look forward to seeing you in the next webcast of Conjurer.